morning, dear people of the internet, and welcome to the most controversial craft store I've ever heard of. And that says a lot because I made a video about controversial yarn stores a month ago, and this was too big for that video. So today we are going to dive into Hobby Lobby. Before we get into that though, I have this very delusional plan of this channel helping me through college and beyond. Luckily, you can help me with that for free by subscribing and watching my videos if you like them. So thank you for that. Now let's get started. Hobby Lobby was founded in 1972 by David Green in the USA. David Green is an evangelical Christian of the conservative kind, and the store has several ways to make this clear to the public. According to Hobby Lobby's Wikipedia page, it says, honoring the Lord in all we do by operating the store in a manner consistent with the Bible. On the website of Hobby Lobby, which I could not find, probably because I'm on the other side of the world, and also because they don't have an online web shop except on Amazon, which is hypocritical, but you will find out why later. I did find a website, but it also listed all of their controversies in a not too kind way to Hobby Lobby, so I'm not sure if that's their website. So we're going off Wikipedia today. Because of this, all Hobby Lobby stores are closed on Sundays, for example, so employees can go to church with their families. In principle, there's nothing wrong with bringing your religion or your values and your beliefs to your business. I think that is perfectly fine. You gotta have different kinds of stores and businesses in the world, and everyone has different values, so it's perfectly fine to put your values in your business, and it can probably even be very helpful. But sadly, Hobby Lobby has been accumulating controversies since they came into existence almost entirely because of this. Like, they are trophies to be collected. I know I'm not the first person to make a video about this ever, but lately there have been some new things happening that should be added to this list, so I thought it would be time to go through all of them, have my freshly European crafter view put on this all, and we are going through the entire list for the sake of context and I guess entertainment as well. Hobby Lobby is notorious for not using barcodes. Now, I would not call this a controversy, but I do think it's more of an example of their hypocrisy. Because according to David Green's book, that I, to be honest, have not read, I tried to find a copy that I could read for free, which I could not, and I was not going to spend money on this. But according to his book, this not using barcodes thing is because it would improve connections between humans instead of connections between a human and the screen. So if you're working the store, you're actually talking and looking at the human in front of you instead of the computer. Instead of scanning a barcode, the employees have to manually input all the product codes of things that they are scanning or they are selling. That includes coupon codes, for example, just all the codes. I have worked in a bookstore. We had barcodes, but sometimes those wouldn't work because they were faded away or because they were printed on very weirdly or whatever. I had to put in many a code by hand, and it was so annoying and so frustrating, and I can guarantee you that that was not good for human interactions because I was just very frustrated about that, and I only had to do that a few times a day and not the entire day every single time. So in my humble opinion, this is not a human-friendly approach. Now, you can see why it's hypocritical to use Amazon as your only online selling point, because if there's anything not human interaction friendly, it is Amazon and the way they conduct their business. Hobby Lobby sells decorations leading up to holidays, so it makes sense that when a Jewish person walked in 2013 in a store in New Jersey, they asked for Hanukkah decorations to decorate their house for Hanukkah. However, when this person asked an employee where they could find these Hanukkah decorations, the employee said that we don't cater to you people. Aside from the very weird and very bad way this employee says this, I don't think it's too weird that a Christian store doesn't sell Jewish holiday decorations, if it weren't for the fact that they had carried Jewish decorations before this. Following this, David Green issued an apology, and his son, who is the president right now of Hobby Lobby, and I think that David Green is still the CEO, the son said that they were going to test the market again for Jewish decorations. The Wikipedia page said that they did not sell them until 2017 at the very least, and I have not seen an update after this. The 4 years for market testing is quite a long time, and that's confusing, so it doesn't really feel like they are trying. Now, this is not entirely unavoidable. It's technically just one singular employee being discriminatory towards Jewish people, and that is bad, but you cannot entirely avoid this. Like, sometimes you just hire a person and you think that they're good and they're actually not. That can happen. So if this was the only thing, and if you disregard the fact that they did not carry Jewish holiday decorations until 2017 and apparently did somehow before 2013, that's a little bit weird. But aside from that, you could theoretically still give them the benefit of the doubt. But I would not be making this video if this was the only thing, of course. In 2011, Megan Somerville, an employee of Hobby Lobby, was told that she was not allowed to use the women's restroom. She had been working at Hobby Lobby for over 20 years at the point, and she had started to transition in 2010, so a year before this happened. So telling her that she is not allowed to use the proper restroom is not a very human-forward approach. Using the men's restroom for trans women can be outright dangerous. And also going to the bathroom that does not match your gender when you're in the process of transitioning and actively dealing with gender dysphoria can be incredibly painful. So this is unhealthy in many different ways. So Megan Somerville actually sued Hobby Lobby and she won the case and she got paid out $220,000 in damages. So good for her. Like, it's bad for her that it happened, but I'm happy she won the case. Another way Hobby Lobby used their conservative and Christian values was by opposing the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, which is the only way I had heard of this ever before, but again, silly Europeanness, I guess. Anywho, part of the ACA was for women to have access to preventative care, such as contraceptives. Another part of this is ensuring that employers make sure that their employees have access to that. Because of the religious beliefs of the CEO of Hobby Lobbies, they did not want to participate in this, so they decided to open a lawsuit against the USA. The grounds for this were the First Amendment to the Constitution, or freedom of religion, and the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Eventually, Hobby Lobby was granted an exemption from Obamacare, basically, only on grounds of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and not the First Amendment, but I don't know what that means because I am not from the USA and I don't know anything about law in general. But I think it's important to note that it was just one of those things that granted them the exception and not both of these things, because that means something. This led to all employers being able to get an exception for this, because if you grant one person the exception, which has the exact same reasons, should be able to get an exception as well. I think that makes sense. If I understand Wikipedia's legal gibberish correctly, this was a big part. The rule that could grant an exception made by this lawsuit of Hobby Lobby was a big part in Roe v. Wade getting overturned. Again, talk about humans first. The reason why Hobby Lobby was against contraceptives is that they see it as a form of abortion. I assume that this is because David Green would be one of those people who thinks that God is the only entity that should be able to decide when someone gets a child. The thing is, next to abortion being critical care for people, contraceptives are a form of medical care as well that could have nothing to do with getting babies or not. Don't get me wrong, I think using contraceptives to not get children when you're not ready to get children or don't want to get children is great. Keep doing that. But also there are so many conditions that are hormone or uterus related that have no cure other than taking a contraceptive, which could potentially help and does not even always help. So that is bad, but having contraceptives is better than nothing. So they are not only taking away control of women, but also literal medical care, which is also with abortions and everything, but you know that. It also goes for contraceptives. Yet you don't hear them say anything about condoms or erectile dysfunction or vasectomies or anything. So it's clearly misogyny. Now I'm sure that Christians of these kinds would also be against vasectomies, but also you don't hear them about that in this way. Like, there's not something being overturned like Roe v. Wade that is about vasectomies. By now they cannot get any benefit of the doubt anymore, I think. And this was not even the only time that Hobby Lobby forgot to even remotely care about the health of people. In 2020, when only essential businesses were allowed to have their doors open to the public, Hobby Lobby decided that they are an essential business, so they stayed open. Now, crafting supplies are incredibly important to me. I think it's not even an exaggeration when I say that at least half my waking time I spent with either a pen or some kind of yarn in my hand, and I would still say that trying to stop a pandemic is a lot more essential and important than crafting supplies. Duh. It was not about that, of course, but still. Luckily, the American state agrees with me for once. Well, agreed. I'm not sure what they would do right now, but they agreed with me back then. But Hobby Lobby eventually had to close their stores a month after this all happened. So in March, they were told to close the doors and they decided they were essential, and in April they had to close their doors because the state was like, bro, you cannot be doing this. Instead of doing this the normal way with at least a little bit of care for their employees, they decided to stop paying every single one of their employees, which included benefits, which in the US also means healthcare benefits. I know a lot of people used their jobs during COVID, but not after 1 month, and these people did not even lose their jobs. They were furloughed, meaning that they still had a job but were not being paid. You can say they were not doing the work because the store had to be closed and they don't have an online store because they're too Christian for that or whatever. But also, you cannot just stop paying people because they need money to pay rent and eat, literally. That's the system we live in. So you cannot just do that. Clearly, money is way more important to this company than employees' well-being and health. Why am I surprised? I guess I'm surprised because it's very clear that these people did not read the Bible while they were away. And to a certain extent, I did. Like, I did not read all of them, but I got past the love thy neighbor and care for people parts of the Bible. I know about the bad part too, but anyways, I did not read the entire thing, but I read that. I had a children's Bible when I was young. They forgot everything. I don't know, maybe they had amnesia about the Bible, but that's weird. Maybe the most well-known controversy that is not even remotely similar to anything we have talked about until now, which is kind of weird, but this happened in 2009. That year they were made aware that they had been buying artifacts that were probably smuggled from Iraq. I was very confused about why a craft store would be buying artifacts from West Asia, but apparently they were sponsoring the Museum of the Bible instead of investing in barcode scanners. Culture is important, but get your priorities in order maybe. I know that it's not because they don't have money for that, but still, I'm stuck on that. Anyhow, you would assume that it's important for a museum to know where these kinds of artifacts come from. Like, that's at least half the job of a museum, to provide context to the things you show to the public. But apparently I'm wrong about that. At some point a federal complaint was filed and Hobby Lobby was ordered to return the artifacts to their countries of origin. I would imagine that this is about like 3 objects that could have been an accident of sorts somehow. But no, the original complaint was for 450 tablets and 3,000 other stone or clay tablets. I don't know, there were just a lot of tablets. After this complaint, Hobby Lobby was ordered to return over 5,500 artifacts to their countries of origin. Later, Stephen Green, which is the president of Hobby Lobby and the son of David Green, who founded Hobby Lobby, announced that they would be returning over 11,000 artifacts to both Iraq and Egypt. So that's a lot. And a lot more than I would expect. I cannot figure out how you would accidentally acquire thousands of illegal artifacts. I assume it was not entirely accidental either, like at least someone just did not do their research when they should have done their research. It's just a very weird situation. Part of this was Hobby Lobby buying an artifact for $1.6 million at a black market auction. I'm not sure if this auction was black market, but there was a black market auction involved in this process, and the auction house lied about where they had acquired this stone artifact. So I guess that's how that happens, but I still think that they should have done any research. These controversies are all in the past, to a certain extent, but fear not, Hobby Lobby is still at it. Apparently Hobby Lobby also sells a lot of home decor. I don't know if I would go to a craft store to buy home decor, because I would not think that they would sell that, but apparently they do. I would go to a craft store to buy craft supplies to make home decor, but not the home decor itself. That feels a little bit weird, but it's just not about that. You can buy home decor whatever you want, but they sell this, and I would be doubtful about that.
Real or imaginary?
Bro, that is... Bro, this whole shit is.
Would you like to talk about this, Frank?
It's not real. Look at this.
What does Frank say?
Like, what is going on? The chicken's mouth is here, but it hasn't. What the fuck?
And then he said,
It's like, yeah.
then he said that the world was coming to an end.
You know, you see this and it's like,
The world is coming
that's
to an
AI. This like sheen.
I do have something against a craft store selling AI generated images, but even more so when you're extreme hypocrites when you do this. We've been over this, but you cannot be a craft store with your main target audience being people that are crafters, artists, etc. people making things by hand and sell AI generated images. I hope I don't have to explain that. But also remember the thing with the barcodes and the thing where they wanted to put human interactions first instead of human computer interactions. If there's nowadays anything more of a human computer interaction, it's with a human and a generative AI thing. The barcode thing made about 1% of sense before this came into play. Now it makes 0% of sense. You cannot say that you're against human-computer relations getting too far in if you sell pictures of a chicken with a mouth. Also, let's say you were a painter in anything before the 1850s, you would have gotten a free exorcism with that if you had shown that to anyone from any Christian denomination, because it looks cursed, and it probably is cursed. Lately it also came out that Hobby Lobby has been funding something called the Greater Than campaign. This campaign exists because 47 conservative organizations came together and decided that they should stop marriage equality. Technically, the store did not donate money to this, but David Green did, probably with money that he made being the CEO and founder of Hobby Lobby. I get that conservative evangelical Christians have convinced themselves that being gay is against their religion. I understand that. I don't agree with it, but I understand that they have. And I also understand that especially evangelical Christians want to save everyone from hell, because that is their job as evangelical Christians. They spread the word of God. They try to make everyone a Christian so that you go to heaven, and everyone else. They feel very responsible about that, most of them. But at some point, you're going to have to realize that gay people are just wanting to be themselves and they don't go out to harm people, and that you should let them be. If you want to stop anyone from doing harm and potentially stop them from going to hell, put your efforts into doing something against warlords, for example. They are doing more harm than gay people are doing. I think Hobby Lobby has stirred up enough strikes to not deserve to conduct their business anymore, especially the CEO. I think it's not going great, but like, my opinion does not matter in this, and that's not how the world works. So the only thing we can do is point out how much hypocritical stuff is happening here and that it's not great, and we can laugh about it because to a certain extent it is kind of funny. Thank you for watching. If you like my little video, please press the wonderful shiny like and subscribe buttons, and then I will see you next time. Ciao!